Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another year of The Haunting of KGGO. It's sponsored by the Phantom Fall Fest happening at Adventureland all this month. More details at adventurelandresort.com. My name is B-sox, and I'll be your host as we dive into the world of the paranormal for yet another year. And friends, joining me for this first episode of The Haunting, Josh and Katie Hopkins are on the line. Hey guys, how you doing?
Doing good, thank you.
Hey Josh.
Hey, I'm here.
Now, Josh and Katie are part of. You're part of the board of directors or the board or something like. I didn't write that part down. I'm sorry.
You got it right.
Okay, which one? The board or the board of directors?
The board of directors.
Perfect. Yeah. I'm going to write that down. The board of directors from the Benton County Historical Society, Paranormal Tours, and you guys have a lot to do with the Hordge House and the Benton Train Depot in Benton, Iowa, correct?
Yep, that's right.
That's awesome. Now, we're going to get to that part of this conversation here in a few minutes because if you're willing to run paranormal tours, I'm willing to guess there's some stuff going on there. But as we always start out with on The Haunting, I always like to kind of find out about the investigators. And you guys were and do still have a group called Unknown Darkness. And we're going to have all these links on at the bottom of the page for everybody playing along at home. But let's start with you, Katie. How did you kind of get into the world of the paranormal? Because it's a weird, wacky world, and here we are talking about it.
Yeah. So my, journey into the paranormal, if we really go back, it started when I was 10 years old, and that's when I saw my first full-bodied apparition and kind of intrigued me into the world. But then I grew up, had sports, all that wonderful stuff that I did throughout my childhood, and really didn't get involved in it until 2012 when I worked for the Grout Museum in Waterloo, Iowa.
The Grout Museum?
The Grout Museum. Yep.
Like tile grout? Or
kind of. Henry Grout was his name, but yeah, exactly. Yep.
All right.
Yeah. So I worked for them, and I actually managed the old Victorian home, the Rensselaer Russell House Museum. There's another tongue twister for you there. And I managed the house, and I was there 8 hours a day, all by myself. I also have a bachelor's degree in history from the University of Northern Iowa, and I so loved history, loved to research it. And then I, of course, watched the paranormal shows back then. Really just got intrigued by working in this house by myself, 8 hours a day.
Okay.
Hearing voices, hearing footsteps, things that I knew weren't me and things that I knew weren't guests in the house because I was the only one in there. So that's what really intrigued me about it first and got me involved. And then I knew some people who had a local team, called them up and said, hey, would you guys want to investigate? They said, yes, of course. And February of 2012 is my first investigation that I ever had, and been doing it ever since.
Let's go back to when you were 10 years old. You kind of just glaze over what most people never see, a full-body apparition. Yeah. Where did you see a full-body apparition at?
In the basement of my neighbor's house.
Tell us about it.
Yeah.
Was it like an old-timey person? Was it, just random dude in the basement? Well, tell me about this.
When I first ever brought it up as an adult, because I wrote some books about it, and when I first ever talked about it, I always thought it was my neighbor that had passed away a few weeks prior to me seeing it. And then I described the person to my mom, and I had one of my really good friends who's a wonderful artist. His name's Adam Tillery. I had him draw it based on my description. And I showed my mom that picture, and I described it to her, and she said, Katie, that looks nothing like what your neighbor looked like. And I said, oh, that's great. So I've been thinking the whole time of my entire life that this was my neighbor who had just passed away, and lo and behold, it doesn't really seem to be that way. So it was a random person. Could have been somebody that, lived on that land way back when, but they were wearing loafer type slippers, a plaid shirt, like a flannel shirt, and then just some sleeper type pants. So was very, seemed to be modern, but who knows? When it comes to spirits, they can really form themselves in any way they want. But it was an elderly man sitting in a rocking chair, rocking back and forth.
Now, was this, what town was this in?
Walford, Iowa.
Okay. Any history to the house or anything like that you know of?
No, my parents' house was one of the first houses on that block. It's just a small cul-de-sac. And my parents' house, I believe, was the first house there in the 1970s. And then this might have been the second or third house. So if it ties back to anything that would be there, I would assume it was the land and not with the house.
Okay. I want to come back to the first ghost hunt here in a few seconds. Josh, how did you get into this weird world?
Well, the TV shows really is what got me into it.
It'll get the chicks.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So my first investigation was Villisca. It was just a group of friends from high school. We just drove. Yeah, right. It's quite the place to start off. And then I found out that my uncle had purchased an old poor farm building, and he let us investigate one night. And I went back to him and said, "You got to open this place up because it's ridiculously active." And that's kind of how it all started for me. And then met Katie, and here we are.
Okay, let's get to how you guys met, because it's one of those weird ways that love kind of works out sometimes. Please enamor us with the story that you told me off the air.
Sure.
Go for it.
And actually, it's funny because yesterday was exactly 10 years since we've met.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. So one night, I was invited to go out to the Edinburgh Manor with a different paranormal group. And I, of course, said yes because I had heard about this place and I really wanted to investigate it. And I walked in and walked up, and I was really nervous because I forgot my waiver, and I was like, oh, crap, what if they don't have any extra waivers?
And I should have turned her away right there.
And it was Josh. Josh was the tour guide. And so that was the first night we ever met.
He was like, it paid off.
Yeah, right? It sure did. And so Josh and I, we talked a lot that night. We investigated a lot together. He found out that I had my degree in history, loved to research, do all that. So I think it was a few months later, he had reached out to me. We had friended each other on Facebook. He reached out to me and asked if I was willing to help him research another building that his uncle owned or had purchased. And I was like, of course.
That's the line he used on you?
That was my pickup line. Right?
Hey, would you mind? I know you're really smart at this history stuff.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Exactly.
Josh, you and me are A-okay, man. That's the same kind of thing I'd do.
Hey, it worked. Right?
10 years and 2 kids later.
Yeah, exactly. Yep, exactly. So I, of course, said yes. I was like, oh, yeah, that sounds great. And I was like, oh, another location to go to. And it's
you
a cute
fell
guy.
for
I was
it.
like, I'm not for it. So we ended up becoming friends first. We were friends for about a year and a half, and then decided to take another step to being a couple. And we've been married for 5 years with 2 kids, and here we are.
That's awesome.
Doing fun things.
Josh and Katie Hopkins from the Benton County Historical Society Paranormal Tours, also a part of their group that's kind of around still, but Unknown Darkness was a part of that. So you're the place you were working at that you started doing research on it, which one was that?
Yeah, the Rensselaer Russell House Museum.
And where's that at?
In Waterloo.
Okay, so and that's a place that that has activity. I've never heard of it. So
yeah, I don't think they really do paranormal investigations anymore. They kind of ended that when I left the museum. But yeah, it definitely had activity. I mean, lots of different activity. You'd see shadow figures a lot in there. Hear footsteps, voices. I mean, I would sit in my office and I would hear footsteps upstairs, thinking that, oh, somebody came in and is now roaming around upstairs and nobody was there. Or I'd hear the doorbell because when you open it, it'd have a little ding, and I would hear that and think, oh, I need to go greet guests, and nope, nobody was there. The piano, and it was an original piano of Lillian Russell, who was the daughter of Rensselaer and Caroline Russell. There was one of her original baby grand pianos in there, and it played on its own. So
weird.
Yeah. It was a really active house. It was really, it's a beautiful house too. And it's just, it's really cool.
Now, was this a place that you felt uncomfortable in or anything like that? Or was it just more curiosity driven?
Yeah, it varied, really. I mean, yeah, there were times where you didn't feel welcome in the house. One of the big tragedies that happened with the Rensler and Caroline is their daughter, Genevieve. She died when she was 5 years old. She had fell down a cistern and drowned in it. So
oh, wow.
There's a lot of tragedy in that house, and you do feel it. Especially, they do have a post-mortem photograph of Genevieve, and looking at the picture, you just kind of get those eerie, creepy vibes.
The heebie-jeebies.
And being a mother now, it's just even more sad than anything, looking at it. But it really varied from day to day. If it was more of just that, like, are they just curious what's going on? Or if it was more of, I don't really want to be in here today.
I got you. Josh, how did you get on at Edinburgh? Everybody says it one way or the other. You worked there. What's that?
Edinburgh.
Okay.
Yeah, we always called it Edinburgh, but I know people would correct us and be like, it's Edinburgh. So,
either way,
yeah.
How did you get hooked up there?
My uncle purchased the building.
Really?
He let us investigate. Yeah. And then he let us come out one night with some friends and investigate. And then we had our night, and we went back through our evidence, and we're catching voices and all different kinds of stuff. So I got back to him and said, you got to open it up and start letting some teams in here. And ever since then, it's just been books nonstop.
Okay. So when did Edinburgh when was the purchase?
2011.
I believe it was 2011.
Okay, so you guys are the ones who kind of got all this rolling.
Yep. And then I ran tours there for about 5 years.
Wow.
4 or 5 years, I don't remember.
So is Edinburgh still in your guys' family, or?
Yep, my uncle still owns it. We don't do anything out there anymore. We've kind of moved on to some other places.
Okay. So he still owns it. Does he just let other people run it essentially, or?
Yep. He has a couple other people that are running it for him right now.
Okay. All right. It's one of the spots in Iowa that I've never been to.
All right.
As weirdly into the paranormal as I am, I've never been to Villisca, and I've never been to Edinburgh.
Oh, wow.
I know, it's crazy. So anyway, okay, so boy, because I always thought it was interesting that all of a sudden you started hearing about this place called Edinburgh, and that it's absolutely frightening. People run out of the place. It's it's just a mass of scary, and it kind of came out of nowhere. That's interesting. I didn't know you guys were the folks that did that.
Yeah, Josh started it all, and then I just came into play.
Yeah.
I think about 2013 is when I really started getting active there with him.
There you go. Well, I want to get to what you guys are doing now, but boy, going to Edinburgh, what's the most frightening thing you ever saw there?
Oh God.
Oh man, there's so many to.
Probably the door slamming.
Yeah. There was one night. So Josh and I would go to Edinburgh quite a bit, just us two, and would investigate. And there's so much activity. And one night though, we went in and went upstairs and went down to a room that it was open and propped open by a large board, like a wooden board.
Okay.
And there's never been issues with this door. It's always remained open. And we walked down. I don't even know what we were talking about. Gosh, this was probably 9 years ago or so. But all of a sudden, this door, the board that was holding it open, flew across the floor. The door slammed, and we ran. We ran to the back of the building to get away from this door, and thinking we were going to go out the fire escape door in the back. But if we did that, we weren't going to be able to get back in the building because we didn't have the keys. The keys were down in the main area. And the minute that we were starting to walk down the stairs, we heard large banging from the upstairs. And the upstairs is the attic, and the attic is all insulated, and there's only a little wooden beam that you can walk on. And so, I always tell people it sounded like a herd of elephants walking above us. It was the craziest thing ever, and probably one of the scariest things we've ever encountered. Visually, I guess, for activity like that.
Well, and it was like it was happening like all around you, so you had nowhere to go. I felt like I don't know. It was
Okay, all right. So when was the last time you guys were there?
Oh gosh,
it's been a while.
It's been a while. It's been a few years.
You said that you'd kind of moved on to other places. Is the Hordge House what you're talking about, or did he buy something else haunted?
Going on to like the Horde House, there is another building that they own. We did a lot out there. They don't open that one up to the paranormal really too much. But we started our family, did all that. So it just wasn't really in the cards for us to be able to actively be there anymore.
Okay.
And then we came across the Hordge House, and actually Sharon, who is the president of the Historical Society, had reached out to us to do a presentation out there for a fundraiser, and that's kind of how we came hooked up with them and helped them move things forward in the paranormal.
This is The Haunting of KGGO, sponsored by Phantom Fall Fest, happening at Adventureland all this month. More details at adventurelandresort.com. Josh and Katie Hopkins from the Benton County Historical Society, Paranormal Tours, also Unknown Darkness, on the line with me right now. Let's talk about the Hordge House. This is kind of your guys' main focus, it seems like now. You've got paranormal tours that you do there and at the Benton Train Depot. Tell me about the Hordge House and what makes it paranormal.
Yeah, so the Horde House is really deep with history. Not only the house itself, but the land around it. Benton, the town of Benton, is very historical, dates back to the early 1840s, if not a little before that. But the Horde House was built in 1859 by a man named Dr. Klingon. And he built the house really just to build it, it kind of seems like, because he built it and then sold it to a guy named Willis Franklin Williams. And Willis Franklin Williams lived there while his other home was being built. And it took about 10 years for his other house to be built, which is literally just diagonal from the Hordge House.
Okay.
Huge Victorian home, now a funeral home. And
of
then
course.
sold it to the Hordges. Yeah. Sold it to the Hordges, George and Elizabeth, in 1869. So what makes it haunted, or I guess paranormal, there have been deaths in the home. George himself died in the home. Elizabeth's funeral, his first wife, her funeral was held in the home. And then another death in there was George's second wife. Her mother actually passed away in the home. So there have been deaths. There has been, and also it houses all of the collections for the Benton County Historical Society. So if you want to talk attachments to artifacts, that would definitely be, I think, a cause of a lot of the haunting in there.
Okay.
But again, just the land itself is so historical and deep with history, and not all of it is great history. A lot of it is outlaws that were there in the 1840s and basically just running crazy and doing really bad things, murder, theft, all of that you can think of. And there's just that town has a cloud of death around it, I really will say.
Benton, Iowa, come and experience the death.
Yeah, exactly. It's a wonderful town. It is. A cloud of death from back then, I guess I should say. I don't want to anger anybody from Benton, because it's not like that now. But everybody there is very open to what we do with it. It brings a lot of great people to the community, and really has upped the numbers, I think, for even some of the local places there. So it's just, there's a lot, I think, that goes into the haunting of that place.
I'll tell you a couple things I noticed. First off, one, it didn't surprise me at all that there's a river right there.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, yeah.
So that was one thing. But the other thing that kind of surprised me, and even surprised me more in talking to you guys just now, it's not often that a county historical society would be okay with the paranormal stuff and want to do tours with. Usually it's like, oh no, there's no, there was one story, but we don't allow, people to do paranormal investigations here. That's interesting to me.
Yeah.
I think a big part of it was COVID was just taking museums out left and right, and they were looking for a way to make some money.
Okay.
Bring some money in to the museums and stuff, that they were open to it. And
a lot of the board members are very open to the paranormal. The whole town is really, I'm sure there are some people there who don't believe it, but the town of Benton is, it's small. It's the county seat of Benton County. And tourism to there, I think, is necessary. And, and they have, things to bring that, but, this is really, like I said, opened up a lot of people coming there, but also they were open to the fact that this is a field that a lot of people are interested in, and this can really help the museum. And it has. We have done very well. The tours have been open for a little over a year now, and we've been booked. Like last summer, we were booked almost all summer, and then winter came, and we had some, bookings, but a lot of people don't do this stuff in the winter time. And then this summer, we've been quite booked up again. And so it's really just helped out with a lot of exposure for the Historical Society and its locations, but also places in Benton, the town of Benton. But it's also helped bring in some funds to keep the lights on, which has been really nice.
Okay, so let's say I go investigate the Hordge House. What am I getting myself into? Like, what's the best piece of evidence you've ever seen, heard, or experienced at the place? Or the moment that made you want to run out of the building?
Honestly,
That's happened before.
Yeah, honestly, just the energy that you can feel in that house can do that. We've had multiple teams come in tell us that this is the most intelligent haunting they've ever come across or ever have encountered.
Like how?
Yeah. So, a lot of activity with electromagnetic field detectors. So K2s, cat balls, REM pods, all being very interactive. And Estes method is used a lot in there. And a lot of people get a really good responses through that and direct and make sense to the questions they're asking. I would say some of the things personally for Josh and I, the energy is a big one for us. There's been a time where we live 35 minutes from the house because we live in Cedar Rapids, and we drove up one night and we got a babysitter for the kids. We were going to investigate. It was we're having a date night, to be quite honest. And we walked in and we went through the dining room, got to the door that would have led up to the stairs to go up to the upstairs, and we couldn't move any further. It was like the energy was so thick. It was almost like we would have had to walk through like a screen of just crazy energy, and it just didn't feel right. And so we went into the collections room and the archives room and looked through documents all night.
That sounds like an amazing date night.
Right? I know.
You guys really know how to have fun.
Hey, what do you do, right? Oh, man.
Let's not only go to the haunted house, but let's go look at documents.
Right?
Yeah.
That's our nerd side,
There you go.
We're history nerds.
So going back to the house itself, beyond that, I mean, what have some people said about the Hordge House? What when they come out of it, is it? I guess when you think of Edinburgh, you think evil and scary, right?
Yeah.
You think Villisca, evil, scary. You think of some of these other places, it's almost a fun haunting. Where does Hordge House kind of fit into that?
I would say we've had some of those Edinburgh feels in the basement and the upstairs. I would say you do sometimes just get your light haunting of, residual activity, but also could be some intelligent, but they're not there to like give you the jump scares the Joker or somebody would have from the manor, which he follows us sometimes, so that can be quite interesting.
The Joker, we'll have to circle back to that.
Yeah. And I would say that you get a mix. I mean, we've had times, like I said, where we don't even want to be in the house, and then we've had times where I could go upstairs by myself and be just fine. But so I say we probably fall in the middle of it. Just depends on who you get.
I don't think we know exactly what haunts it yet.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I think you're right.
I think every time we go in, there's something new that happens. But I don't know.
Yeah, we're pretty sure there's something creepy though in the basement. Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of determined that.
I mean, it's a limestone foundation, so that definitely provides some energy.
Local.
Yeah, local.
So it's local limestone. Yeah.
Well, you throw in that, you throw in, the river there, you throw in, like you said, the history. I noticed there are railroad tracks right beside it.
Yeah.
So there's probably it's not like the area is not disturbed, I guess.
Right.
So, Josh and Katie Hopkins from the Benton County Historical Society for Paranormal Tours. We'll have all the information about how people might be able to look this up and go experience the Hordge House, which I may have to make a trip out. So we may have to talk about that after. Tell me a little bit about the Benton Train Depot, because that's a part of the tours as well, correct?
Yep, it is. Yeah, it is part of the tours during the regular season, and then wintertime we do shut it off because of being able to actually get to it and snow removal, all that wonderful stuff.
Okay.
But it's fairly active as well. I mean, we've seen shadow figures in there. Some people have claimed to see shadow figures walking the platforms. I would say that's probably more residual energy of people who were catching the train for over 67 years.
Okay.
Walking back and forth. But We've seen a 7-foot tall shadow figure in there that we've actually caught both with just shadow figure, but we have seen it on the SLS camera before too. And on the SLS, it was holding a smaller figure's hand. So it was a little eerie to see something like that.
You had a ghost and its pet dog with you.
Right.
And for the people at home, and frankly, because I'm blanking on it, an SLS camera is
it's like the Kinect device.
Okay,
so
okay,
like
that's what.
iPad that has that. Yep, that has that Kinect feature, and you can see like the stick figure.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, I thought it was that, but it's been a while since I've talked about this stuff, so it was like, I better ask. Plus, I can, spend it that way. So where is the train station at then? Or
Literally
train depot,
across,
excuse me.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's on 2nd Avenue in Benton, and the Hordge House is on 1st Avenue. They have the same house number or like the same.
Oh, I see it.
So it's 612 1st Avenue for Hordge, 612 2nd Avenue for the depot. They're just right across the street. So from the back of the Hordge House, you walk across the street, and the depot's right there.
Let me ask you this: of the two, which do you think is one? Which do you think people like? If an investigator went in there, what do you think? Which one do you think is going to get the better evidence? And two, which one do you think is scarier?
Hordge House.
Hordge House.
Really, on both accounts?
Yeah.
So what is it about the train depot then?
I mean, there's things at the train depot I think that could scare people out of there. I really do. I think that the Hordge House just gets more of the attention because of the structure of it. And so that's why people have caught more there.
Okay.
The depot still, I mean, 100% is haunted. And there's been really creepy things that we've caught in there. It just, I think people overlook it sometimes too because they get so caught up in the Horde House. But yeah, I mean, they both have their features. They're just very different.
What were you going to say, Josh?
Katie said it already.
I'm sorry, man.
Just about people get caught up in the Hordge House activity, I think, and they just kind of forget about the depot. I know there's some teams that don't even make it to the depot because the activity that they're getting at the Hordge House keeps them there.
Mm-hmm.
Boy, I've got about 50 different questions I want to ask you about these places. Well, I think that the train depot is interesting to me because, sometimes like this stuff is, when you get into the really kind of far-reaching side of it, what that place may represent on the other side and whether or not that's a traveling thing. So the things that at the train depot are a little bit different than, what's at the Hordge House. Does that make sense?
Right.
Yeah, that's a good observation actually.
But on the other side of it with the Hordge House, and in doing these interviews a few times, for last few years, when you start talking about some of these places that have a lot of investigators coming through, like you said, you feel like there's something scary in the basement. Do you think it's something that's always been there, or do you think it's something that maybe somebody dragged in or attracted to the place? Or is it just something that's always been there and here we are?
I think it's been there. But I think with people coming in to investigate is making it worse.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So giving it attention is kind of just, they're feeding it.
We're pretty sure somebody did a seance in there too recently, which is on our rules not to do. But we came in and found some burnt candles. And ever since then, it's been worse. Yeah, the activity has been worse.
Okay, so you have rules of what to do and what not to do in the place.
We do.
Don't burn it down.
Yeah.
All right. So don't burn it down.
Yeah. No, we do, just because we are a nonprofit 501c3, so we do have to abide by certain rules, and we have to we are a museum, and so we do ask that no seances be conducted. And the other thing too is they burnt our candles, so that was a little bit of a hurt. But we ask no Ouija board. That, and a lot of these are per the board. It's not just Josh and I, making these rules up.
Really, the board?
The board has asked that some of these things, not happen. Leave it the way you found it.
Yeah.
Things like that. We're pretty easygoing, but there are a few things that we ask, and I'm sure Ouija boards have been used. But
the candles make sense because, like you said, you don't want to burn down the place.
Right.
Yeah.
The fact that the board would go through and like the seance or the Ouija board or some of this stuff and not to say that your board isn't educated on it, but knowing that something like that like those things are out there. That your board is really interesting.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Yeah.
We've probably helped educate them.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Okay.
We have prior history running locations, so we kind of know.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know the ins and outs of it. And the Ouija board thing, I mean, you mention all the time, Josh, that, a Ouija board is just basically a ghost box on a board.
Yeah.
Or a ghost box isn't a Ouija board in a box form.
That's what I tell everybody. You're using it like you would use a ghost box.
Yeah.
It's a different
and
form.
That could be something that, we ease up on in the future. We haven't had really many problems with investigators.
No.
We've had one person, I think, reach out to us before and give us a little bit of grief for the Ouija boards, but and Josh and I aren't going to sit here and say we've never used it. We haven't used it in the Horde House or the depot, but we've used a Ouija boards before. I mean, we're not going to deny that.
It's knowing how to use them.
It's knowing how to use them. And we used one in Malvern Manor one time, and I don't think I want to use one for a while.
Like I said, you just keep adding to the questions I want to ask you guys. Josh and Katie Hopkins, part of the Benton County Historical Society Paranormal Tours. We'll have all those details at the bottom of the page. With it right now, I mean, like you said, and when I say this, I don't want it to be taken in a way that your board's going to go, come back at you. But when you say it, do you think it is getting, a little bit more okay, we'll use that word. I was going to say scarier or worse, but more active is probably the better term for this. Because people are coming in, because this is another one that I don't know if I've ever heard of this before.
Yeah, and they won't have any worries about that the stuff we talk about at board meetings is that there could be activity that increases because people are coming in. They're aware of all of that, and again, our president of the board is very open to all of this and has been very receptive to our advice and whatnot.
But will they go?
What's that?
Has the board gone?
No, they have not been on an investigation before. Sharon, our board president, has opened up the location for teams.
Okay.
So she's aware of the teams coming in. Like, she helps us with opening it because she understands, we've got a family and stuff. But no, I don't think anybody has from the
I know
board.
they're interested.
They're interested.
Some of them are.
Yeah. We definitely have interest. It's just getting people there to do it. And they're in there a lot too.
If they ever go, let me know. I would be interested in that. I really would. I don't know why, but okay. So going back, a couple questions just to ask real quick. You brought up the Joker at was that Edinburgh?
Yep.
Tell me about the Joker real quick.
Josh, I'm gonna let you do that.
He's somebody we discovered probably a few investigations into opening it up. We had a team in there, and one of their investigators was an empath and was picking up on this figure that reminded her of the Joker because of his smile. And that's how he got his nickname. But she had seen him in a straitjacket, which I know they had a padded room in the basement there.
Okay.
So then after that, he kind of just became
well-known figure.
the well-known figure.
Yeah.
So
it almost sounds like it almost sounds like one of those things where you named it so you gave it more power. A little bit.
Yeah, like a tulpa.
Yeah. Well, that's eerie. Like I said, there's so many questions.
But I think he's attached to us because we kind of discovered him, and
we know his energy.
Yeah.
Really? Like, okay, so let's say you go to Edinburgh. How do you know he's around?
I would say he just has a feeling. He gives you anxiety for one, so you kind of get that pit in your stomach kind of feel. Just
it's kind of hard to explain.
It is. It's just like you just know, like you just know
the energy's off.
Yeah, the energy's off. You kind of can sense that menacing smile a little bit too. I think. I mean, we've gone to an old theater and we felt his energy there.
Really?
Before. And and it's really odd. And I would say that anxiety type feeling though is where we really pick up on is that, and just he almost kind of puts in your mind too, like, hey, I'm here.
Okay, I got you. And this is just a curiosity question because I don't know why this stuff interests me, but I think on your guys' website you had said you've been a part of a fair amount of ghost shows and YouTube series and all this kind of stuff. How has Edinburgh been portrayed in these? Are they pretty spot on, or because I've seen enough of these shows that they go in and they change the story or they make it scarier than it is, and so on and so forth. How has Edinburgh been represented in this stuff?
I would say the Ghost Adventure show. It was pretty accurate.
Yeah.
Really, those guys?
Yeah. I would say the biggest thing is I don't know. I couldn't speak for it anymore, but when Josh and I were there, we never caught on to like any demonic type activity. We had the Joker, we had menacing spirits in there, and ones that you really don't want to even come across. Even elemental type, but I don't know. I mean, there are stories from people who actually lived there prior to it closing down, saying they saw demonic faces in the walls, which is really creepy. But
yeah, totally.
I think they did end up saying there was something demonic there. I don't remember. But I know they really focused on the Joker, and I don't know if they tried to make him turn out to be kind of like a demonic type presence. But
I always like the meme about ghost hunters where it's a show, it's an hour-long show about guys yelling at ghosts to step up, and when they do, they run away.
Yeah.
But all right, hey, real quick, go back to Malvern for a second. You said you guys took a Ouija board there and don't know if you want to use one again. What happened?
Well, actually, it was Josh Hurd. Ouija board.
Oh, it was Hurd?
Yeah. We're actually going to see him tomorrow. He's coming to our event he's one of our special guests at our event that we're hosting tomorrow. It was Hurd. He had one in his office, and we're like, hey, can you leave that out? Is it okay if we and of course, he's not going to say no. So it was Josh, one of our friends, Vanessa. You guys were the ones touching it. Was Corey touching it? No, Corey and we had two friends with us, Tia and Corey Lolman, and they were with us. And I was standing, Corey was standing, and I think Tia was standing, and Vanessa and Josh were actually moving the planchette, or not moving it, but touching it. Yeah. And God, that was weird. Like, Corey got angry.
Well, the K2 was even just going nuts.
Yeah.
And I don't know.
I think you ended up getting tears in your eyes. I think I did too. It was like, all of a sudden, it felt like we were just circled by spirits that we didn't want to be circled by.
Interesting. So, wow, huh? Josh and Katie Hopkins from the Benton County Historical Society and Paranormal Tours on the line with me. Also, their group Unknown Darkness is out there. In kind of the broad spectrum of all this stuff, what's been your favorite place to investigate? We'll start with Josh on this one. What's the place that if you and I were going to hop in the car right now and go wherever, where would we go?
Oh, God, that's a tough one.
Well, fine. Let's go to Katie. Katie, me and you are jumping in.
Well, one of my favorites to go to is Missouri State Penitentiary.
Okay.
I love the tour guides there, but it's just massive, and there's so much to get to. And probably one of the best pieces that we've ever caught was from there as well. It was a full shadow figure in, I think it was A Hall.
It was in a building where nobody else was.
Yeah, we weren't even in the building, I don't think, when we caught it. And I mean, it's on our Unknown Darkness Facebook page, and you can see this full-on shadow figure shape.
Weird.
Walking on the catwalk. Missouri State Penitentiary, and God, Malvern's up there too. I like Malvern a lot. It's a cool place.
See, I've never been to Malvern either, and we talked to Josh was on this a couple years ago, and I had a lot of interest in Malvern. Man, that place sounds weird.
It's awesome. It's a great place, and Josh is a good guy too. He's just
he's okay at best. Let's be honest here. No, Josh was a lot of fun when he was on. I don't get to talk to Josh as much as I'd like to, but he's a very cool guy. You guys are both very cool as well. Josh and Katie Hopkins on the line with me right now. Josh, where are we going ghost hunting?
I'm going to say Old South Pittsburgh Hospital in Tennessee.
Wait, say that again?
Old South Pittsburgh Hospital in Tennessee.
It has nothing to do with Iowa, but that's okay. Tell us about this place.
Oh, my God. It's just a big, massive hospital on the side of a mountain.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, limestone involved?
I don't think so. The hospital's like I think 50.
It's not super old, but it's
got a lot.
The land, it's the land that's super historical.
Yeah. Okay.
The guy that owns it's really nice too.
Yeah.
And actually, people that are volunteers are going to be part of our our volunteers tomorrow for our event.
And they're the ones that the Hordge House was one of the most intelligent they've ever seen, and they're in this hospital all the time.
Okay, I got you. Let me ask you this: you guys brought up something about an empath a couple minutes ago. What do you guys think about that side of it? Believe it, not believe it? Think technology's better? Think that's better? Where do you guys kind of stand? Like when you go investigating, what's it like to investigate with you guys?
It's hard for me to believe it. I'm gonna go with technology.
Real quick, I want to preface this out there by saying this is simply an opinion. It's not saying it's right or wrong or anything. Because you know how folks in the paranormal world are. Oh, you don't know what you're talking about and all this. Okay, so you like the technology side more then?
I like the technology because I can see it with my own eyes.
Okay.
I'm not saying I don't believe empaths, but I like to see it.
I got you.
History or technology can back it up. I'm for it. I actually have an entire book on being an empath. And thing is there's been certain things where I've told Josh things and then he has come back to me and like, how did you know that? And that's kind of where if I say things and I'm like, there's nothing to back it up, then I'm like, it could just be in my mind, whatever.
Yeah.
But case in point, Mineral Springs.
Mm-hmm.
We were there for a convention, Mineral Springs hotel down in Alton, Illinois. It was a few days before the event, and I just kept saying, gosh, there's something about a woman in a blue dress. And that's all I could get was it was a woman in a blue dress. It was just popping in my head. And it would just randomly pop in there. I would just start thinking these things. It's not like I can see it, hear it, like that. It just pops in my mind. And then we get to the event. We set up our booth. I'm sitting in a booth, and I get a message from Josh of a picture of a little note card, and it says "woman in a blue dress" or known as "woman in a blue dress." And I was like, "That's interesting. Could it be coincidence?" Sure.
We've never been here before either.
And it was the first time we had ever been there.
Weird.
I'd never been to Mineral Springs at that point. And then the woman in the blue dress, I think, turned out to be Pearl, who took her own life in that hotel.
All right.
So, if there are things to back up and it's not just me, it's, my friends who are mediums and empaths, if they just start spewing out all this stuff and there's absolutely nothing to back it up, then I'm just kind of like, okay, I don't know where that came from. If there's something to back it up, technology, history is a big one for me. I like to back up things with history and documentation, and Josh is the same way. If there's stuff to back it up like that, then I'm a little more open to it.
I get you. It's to me, it's one of those, and this is just the way I think. Like, I've seen enough of it to think, okay, there's probably something to it. I just don't know if everybody that says they can do it, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
that's we've had a lot of bad experiences with medium psychic people. So.
Big thing too.
I will say one of the worst ones I had. Somebody, and I forget who it was, but they're kind of well known in the state, but. They had said, "Oh yeah, you're going to move to Colorado for some stuff," and here I am, 20 years later, still in Iowa. So,
we've had a few mediums tell our friend like they were going to have a baby, and this person can't even have a baby. So it's been interesting.
Yeah, it really is kind of interesting on that front. I will say the one I will put stock in is the kind of that feeling of a place where you go in and it's kind of that feeling when you're in somebody else's house and there's nobody there.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Kind of that feeling where I've experienced that enough to think where it's like the house is empty. You know that nobody's home right now, So, I don't know. It's kind of a weird world out there. Josh and Katie Hopkins on the line with me right now. We're talking the paranormal for the haunting of KGGO, sponsored by Phantom Fall Fest, happening at Adventureland all this month. More details, adventurelandresort.com. So, kind of as we get towards the end of this, I got to ask, since you guys have been a part of the, either doing tours or investigations and so on and so forth, if you were going to convince me that the paranormal is real, what's the one piece of evidence that you guys have collected that you would show me or make me listen to or what have you?
Probably audio from Edinburgh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say audio is always, I think, great evidence. Also, I would say mid-10s. Estes method that they did at the Horde House with the REM pod. Very direct responses to the REM pod, lighting up the colors they were saying. I would say some of that too, but definitely audio. Josh caught the first ever EVP at Edinburgh Manor, and it's clear as day. And I would say audio for sure, and probably our picture from Missouri State Penitentiary.
Now, are these up on social media or YouTube or something that we might be able to tag in the post for this?
Yeah, the picture from Missouri State Penitentiary is on our Unknown Darkness Facebook page, and I can definitely send you a link to that. The audio from Edinburgh, I think, is on SoundCloud. It's on SoundCloud. That's right. It is on SoundCloud. Yeah. So I can send you some links to all this stuff.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we can include that at the bottom of the page and stuff, and people can take a look at that. So, Josh and Katie Hopkins from the Benton County Historical Society Paranormal Tours. Like I said earlier, we'll have all the details about how to get a hold of you guys and some of these links and whatnot at the bottom of the page. As we do get to the end of this, what do you guys have in the future for this? What's going on with the Hordge House and the train depot and Unknown Darkness and everything else?
Yeah, so coming up for the Historical Society, we are having a Fall Fest on October 15th. It's going to be at the train depot. We're going to have some vendors there, some wine tasting. I'm actually doing a presentation on Ghosts of Benton. So we'll have that on October 15th. Investigations are ongoing. So, I mean, man, if anybody wants to book an investigation, feel free to look at our website and do that. For Unknown Darkness, to be announced. We haven't done much, but we are talking about going back to Malvern Manor here soon. Okay. So that could be in the books for us here this winter.
You guys said something at the beginning of this that is it's so true. It's, life gets in the way of some of this stuff. Mm-hmm. So we were talking earlier, you guys have two kids, a 4-year-old and a 4-month-old, and you have taken the 4-year-old to, I want to say, the train depot?
Both. Horde House and train depot. Yeah.
Was there any apprehension about taking the kid there?
We don't take him on investigations. We just take him when we do like the tours, like we're giving a historical tour or we're going to do research or going to go clean or anything like that. No, not really. I mean, we are there and we're supervising him, so we're not just letting him, run crazy as a 4-year-old, running around in these haunted locations. But he's definitely said things that we wonder what he's seen or could hear, but no, we don't really have worries or anything. Just because we're there, we can keep him safe.
What's the creepiest thing the kid said?
It's funny because I told people what he said, and then they're like, "Your kid's creepy." So,
well, I'll trade you a story for a story. How about that?
Sounds good. When he was actually only about 2, he was probably going on 3. We took him there we were giving a tour. We got there early. He went upstairs with Josh, and I was getting things ready in the home base area for the team that was coming. And he comes downstairs. He just looks at me. He goes, "Too loud." And I was like, "What's too loud, buddy?" He goes, "The people." And I was like, "Oh, all right. Well, that's great." So he was upstairs with Josh. I mean, and at this point, we hadn't had any influence really on the paranormal to him. Now we're like, "Oh, hey, buddy, there's ghosts there," or things like that. But at that point, there wouldn't have been any type of influence in his mind of ghosts and things. So that was really interesting for him to come down and say that.
Interesting. My kid, he a few weeks ago, I said something about getting up in the middle of the night, and he goes, "Was it the witching hour?" I was like, "What?"
Oh, that's great.
Oh, kids are just crazy. But no, that's an interesting thing. Let me ask you this, and I don't know if you've talked about it at all, but is there a point where you'll be like, "Okay, let's take him on a ghost hunt," or are we waiting for a few more years?
Oh, yeah. When he gets older, for sure. I won't take him until he can understand it.
Okay.
When he can really make that decision if he wants to be there or not. Like I said, we've had people on an investigation before for an event. The person was 10 years old. And I think if he gets to a point where he can understand what it is and understand just the concept of it, I definitely would take him.
There you go. All right. Josh and Katie Hopkins from the Benton County Historical Society Paranormal Tours. They're part of the Hordge House and the Benton Train Depot, where you can get a tour if you like. We'll have those details because I'm going to give you one thing. You guys, you need to make your website simpler, okay?
I know.
But we'll have links to it on the page. Unknown Darkness is your guys' paranormal investigation group. We'll have links to that as well. Josh and Katie, we thank you so much. We really do. Thanks for being a part of the haunting this year.
Of course. Thank you so much.
This has been another edition of The Haunting of KGGO, sponsored by Phantom Fall Fest, happening at Adventureland all this month. More details at adventurelandresort.com. And don't forget, you can find all of the episodes of The Haunting of KGGO at kggo.com/haunting. We'll see you next time on The Haunting of KGGO.